Chevy built the Camaro Z28 to beat the Mustang, but in 1969, one outlaw mechanic, Smokey Yunick, engineered a secret Hemi head 302 engine that made more than 500 horsepower and stunned Trans Am racing. The project vanished overnight, silenced by corporate fear and buried by General Motors' racing ban. Why did such raw power spark panic, and what happened to the engine that could have changed everything? In the late 1960s, the Sports Car Club of America Trans Am Series set a clear challenge: win on Sunday, sell on Monday, but only if your car fit the strict 5-liter engine rule, 305 cubic inches, no more. This limit forced Detroit's best engineers to rethink everything they knew about power. Chevrolet's answer was the Camaro Z28, a car that existed only because the rules demanded it. To qualify for Trans Am, at least 1,000 street cars had to be built with the same engine as the racer. That's why the Z28 came with a 302 cubic inch V8 just under the cap, but designed to spin past 7,000 revolutions per minute and breathe like no small block before it. On paper, the Z28's 302 cubic inch engine was rated at 290 horsepower. In reality, Chevrolet's engineers knew the number was a fiction. The real output in race trim was well above 400 horsepower, but the Sports Car Club of America required manufacturers to submit official specs, and every carmaker played the same game: keep the numbers low for the rulebook, deliver the real goods on the track. This practice, known as factory underrating, was an open secret in the paddock. The stakes were enormous. Ford's Boss 302 and Chrysler's legendary Hemi were pushing the boundaries, each team searching for any edge in airflow, combustion, and reliability. For Chevrolet, the standard wedgehead 302 was strong, but everyone in the garage knew that more power was possible if you could move more air through the engine. The challenge was clear: how do you make a small block engine breathe like a big block without breaking the rules? That question led to a quiet arms race inside Chevrolet. Engineers pored over Sports Car Club of America regulations, hunting for loopholes and gray areas. They needed a solution that would keep the Camaro competitive against Ford's latest hardware, but also stay just inside the letter of the law. The answer would have to be radical, something that could unlock new levels of performance without drawing the attention of scrutineers or corporate lawyers. Smokey Yunick's name kept coming up in these conversations. Known for his Daytona Beach shop and a reputation for bending rules to their breaking point, Yunick had a history of finding power where others saw only dead ends. With the Z28 facing mounting pressure from rival teams, Chevrolet's search for innovation pointed straight to him. The stage was set for a new kind of engine, one that would push the boundaries of what a homologation special could be. Smokey Yunick's approach to unlocking power began where most engineers saw a dead end: the cylinder head. Instead of the familiar wedge-shaped chambers found in every small block Chevrolet, Yunick machined a true hemispherical combustion chamber, an idea borrowed from the world of Chrysler drag racing but never attempted on a Chevy small block. This radical geometry allowed for much larger valves than stock, where a standard Z28 head topped out at 2.02 inches for the intake and 1.60 inches for the exhaust. Yunick's design pushed the envelope to 2.05-inch intake and 1.94-inch exhaust valves, with some sources claiming even bigger. The valves sat at wide angles, creating what mechanics called porcupine heads, a nickname earned by the wild splay of the stems. That shape was not just for show. The hemispherical chamber and canted valves straightened the path for air and fuel, letting the engine breathe at high revolutions per minute in a way no wedgehead could. Yunick did not stop there. To feed this hungry beast, he crafted an all-aluminum cross-ram intake manifold, mounting twin Holley carburetors that together gulped over 1,100 cubic feet of air per minute. The combination of big valves, straight ports, and a cross-ram layout meant the 302 could spin safely past 8,000 revolutions per minute, pulling hard where other engines gasped for breath. Compression was set at a towering 12.5 to 1, demanding race fuel and pushing combustion pressures to the edge of what the block could handle. On a period dynamometer with everything dialed in, the numbers were staggering for a 5-liter engine. While no original dyno sheet survives, contemporary accounts and engineering notes from Hot Rod Magazine and Chevrolet Insiders pointed to a figure north of 500 horsepower, an output that dwarfed the official 290 horsepower rating and even outpaced most big blocks of the day. One engineer described the Hemi 302 as overventilated, a race weapon that made its power high in the rev range, sacrificing street manners for sheer top-end force. The engineering was uncompromising, but it came at a cost. The heads flowed so well at high revolutions per minute that low-speed drivability suffered, and the engine demanded constant attention to keep it alive under stress. But for a qualifying lap, nothing in the Camaro paddock could touch it. The moment word leaked about the power hidden under Yunick's valve covers, rival teams and SCCA officials took notice. The threat was no longer theoretical. Smokey Yunick's Hemi head was not just a clever experiment, it was a direct challenge to the rulebook and to the comfort zone of every competitor on the grid. Inside General Motors headquarters, the mood was tense. The official racing ban, first handed down in 1963, still cast a long shadow over every department. On paper, General Motors had sworn off all factory-backed racing, with no direct funding, no public support, and absolutely no parts, built just to win on Sunday. Behind closed doors, engineers and executives traded memos and whispered about ways to stay competitive without drawing attention. The line between privateer ingenuity and corporate involvement blurred, especially when results started making headlines. By the time Smokey Yunick's Hemi-head Camaro turned up at Riverside, the stakes had changed. Word of Lloyd Ruby's blistering qualifying time spread fast. Rivals and officials crowded around the Camaro, peering under the hood, measuring ports, and taking notes. The heads, with their wild valve angles and oversized ports, looked nothing like anything in Chevy's parts catalog. Sports Car Club of America rules demanded that cylinder heads be production-based, or at least available to the public. Yunick's design was neither. Every lap Ruby completed threatened to expose just how far Chevrolet had strayed from the letter of the law. Back at General Motors, internal correspondence reflected growing anxiety. Heritage Center archives mention engineers warning that a Chrysler-style Hemi on a Chevrolet small block could trigger a backlash not just from the Sports Car Club of America, but from NASCAR, where General Motors relied on a delicate relationship to keep its cars competitive. Executives feared that letting a non-stock Hemi win would shatter the carefully maintained illusion of compliance. The risk was not just technical, it was political. If the Hemi-head Camaro dominated, the company could face renewed scrutiny from sanctioning bodies and even federal regulators. With the threat of exposure mounting, the decision came swiftly. The Hemi-head 302 would never be homologated. There would be no mass production and no official support. The project was shut down, and the radical heads disappeared into private hands and locked storerooms. For General Motors, the cost of letting the truth out was simply too high. Decades after the Hemi-head Camaro vanished from official records, a handful of engine builders set out to answer the question that haunted the racing world. Was Smokey Yunick's forbidden design as powerful as the legends claimed? With only a few original castings surviving and no blueprints to follow, these modern craftsmen turned to technology that Yunick could only have dreamed of. Computer numerical control scanning and three-dimensional modeling allowed them to capture every curve and angle of the rare hemispherical heads, recreating the wild valve geometry and cross-ram intake in precise detail. Using aluminum alloys and race-spec components, they built faithful replicas, each one a tribute to the lost potential of the original. The real test came on the dynamometer. Modern dyno pulls, carefully documented and repeated across several shops, revealed numbers that finally put the old rumors to rest. Recreated Hemi-head 302 engines consistently produced between 475 and 520 horsepower, delivering the kind of power that stayed strong well past 7,000 revolutions per minute. These figures matched, and in some cases exceeded, the whispered estimates from 1969. The engines ran on today's race fuel with contemporary ignition and cooling. But the heart of the design remained pure Yunick: massive valves, straight ports, and a combustion chamber that squeezed every bit of energy from each pulse of fuel and air. Builders who have spent years chasing this mechanical ghost describe the experience as both vindication and revelation. The Hemi-head 302 was not just a myth or an engineering dead end. It was a genuine breakthrough, suppressed before it could change the course of Trans Am history. In the hands of today's enthusiasts, it finally delivers the power that Smokey Yunick always promised, offering a glimpse of what might have been if politics had not gotten in the way. Today, Smokey Yunick's silenced innovation fuels a new wave of builders chasing lost potential. As automotive history is rediscovered in garages and forums, the boundary between legend and reality blurs. Sometimes the boldest breakthroughs remain locked away, waiting for someone willing to ask, "What if?" Share your thoughts below.